Ever since I started this channel, I've wanted to make a video talking about the Samurai Warriors series, yet for some reason I haven't yet, and I think it's simply because I'm not sure how to actually word my thoughts and feelings towards these games. In essence, I love them, although I 100% understand that these games are not for everyone. In fact, I'd go so far as to say these games probably only appeal to a very small portion of gamers in the West. And if you have no idea what these games are, or what I'm talking about, or if you do know these games and hate them, that's okay. What I'm going to try to do is break down what the Warriors games are and discuss why the Samurai Warriors series occupies such a high space on my shelf. Although, with that said, this is not going to be one of my typical game reviews, as I'm not going to give this series an actual rating, and I hope you understand why by the end of the video. So quickly, before we dive in, let's take a step back and answer the question for those who don't know, what is a Warriors game? So Warriors games are developed by Omega Force, a division of the Japanese game developer Koei, the same company also behind the Nobunaga's Ambition series, which I have made a review about in the past. Starting out in 1997, Koei released the first Dynasty Warriors game. It was a weapon-based fighting game much like Soul Calibur, although this time pitting historical figures from China's famous Three Kingdoms period against each other in epic duels. However, by 2000, Omega Force wanted to take their idea in a new direction for the sequel. Thus, Dynasty Warriors 2 was a completely different genre than the first game. This time the game would be a hack and slash that followed the story of the Three Kingdoms era, as you cut down swaths of enemies and engaged in fierce battles with powerful historic figures. From there, the series found its stride and really took off. Building on this historically based hack and slash concept, Koei would continue to publish Dynasty Warriors game after Dynasty Warriors game, and the series continues to go strong today. Yet by 2004, Omega Force decided to make their first spin-off series, Samurai Warriors, a Warriors game set during the Sengoku Jidai, Japan's age of warring states. And while there have been many other spin-offs as well, with games like Warriors Orochi, Dynasty Warriors Gundam, Hyrule Warriors, One Piece Pirate Warriors, and many more, Samurai Warriors has been the second largest Warriors series Omega Force has produced, with as of 2019 having released 4 Samurai Warriors games, with additional expansions and also the extremely fun Empires games. And of course, due to my fascination with feudal Japan, it's the Samurai Warriors series that I've truly grown to love out of all the Warriors titles, and what I'm going to focus on here in this video. But if you want to learn more about the differences between Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors, I highly recommend you check out Chris Gildart's great video comparing the two, which I'll leave a link for in the description. However, the concept of the Warriors games is also not without its fair share of critics, and by that I mean a large portion of Western gamers. The series is often met with complaints that the games are all the same and have very little innovation, that basically all of the games consist of having the same story and repeating the same types of objectives over and over and over, mostly revolving around beating up hundreds of no-name soldiers, defeating enemy officers, and capturing bases. And for the most part, the critics are not wrong, although it is within these systems that we find all the variation throughout the games. For example, each character has their own weapon, fighting style, and combos to master, while each enemy you face will also need to be approached differently depending on their fighting style. There are also abilities and items to collect, mounts to ride, unique features to unlock, characters and stats to level up, difficulties to be beaten, and different game modes to be played. Thus, these games pack enough content in them to really give you many hours of entertainment. Couple that with the fact that you can play most of these games in split screen with a friend, and it's even better. Although most of my friends that I've shown these games to usually tend to fall into the category of people who don't really enjoy these games too much. Alright, so now that you have a basic idea about Warriors games and the criticisms they face if you didn't already know, let's break off now to discuss Samurai Warriors games as samurai games in general and what makes them unique. These games take place during the Sengoku Jidai, when various warlords, the daimyo, were trying to conquer their rivals and become powerful. A perfect setting for these games, as they tell the story from the chaos of the period up to the eventual unification of Japan, filled to the brim with important historical figures and events, all packed nicely together into the age. And although they try to follow history to a degree, These games are generally not historically accurate and should never be viewed as such. Hell, just look at the way the characters are designed. Besides that, the games try to heighten the drama by putting key important figures into battles they were never in. A great example of this is how they always put Sanada Yukimura in the Battle of Nagashino. Yukimura was only a child at the time, although his father and uncles would all fight at Nagashino. I understand why they do this though, to give the player a deeper connection to the characters as the story goes on. However, it is entirely fiction. But it is this kind of stuff that still serves to give an epic depiction of the period, showcasing most of the major battles that occurred, aided largely by all the historical figures who became famous during the Sengoku Jidai. And that is one of my favorite aspects of these games. Samurai Warriors really brings historical samurai to life, giving them interesting and unique personalities. And while they may not be entirely accurate, the historical figures in the games are almost caricatures of what we know about their real-life counterparts. Ora Nobunaga is calmly sporadic yet vicious. Uesugi Kenshin is religious yet an alcoholic. Toyotomi Hideyoshi is energetic and monkey-like. Ishida Mitsunari is a pompous prude. And Sanada Yukimura is honorable and stoic to his dying breath. The list goes on and on, especially seeing as they keep adding more and more characters with every new game. And it really can be a delight to watch them, to see how they interact with others and go about their lives and plans. At times it can be extremely cheesy, but it's also fun to say the least. Though even with that said, there are still two issues I wish to address in regards to the characters. The first one is rather forgivable, but it's about their weapons. Some of them are pretty crazy and just stupid. From using completely unrealistic weapons like a spear that doubles as a cannon, to others using straight up magic, things can get pretty laughable. But that's really an aspect in all of the Warriors games, and when they are also cartoony to begin with, it's hard to really complain about a detail like this anyway. Although my next complaint breaks immersion way more than silly weaponry, and it's in regards to a lot of the female warriors. Now, I want to preface this all by saying there were female warriors in Japan, the Onna Bugeisha. They were the wives and daughters of samurai who for the most part fought to defend their households during times of war. A very famous example during the Sengoku Jidai is Tachibana Ginchio, who is gloriously brought to life in the Samurai Warriors series. But besides her, the many female characters in the games are not remembered as warriors, but just important historical figures. That's not to say I don't think they should have been made into fighting figures. I think it's totally fine to do so in games like this. Yet, it's how they are presented that I truly find issue with. I mean, what the hell is this? It's obvious that a lot of the characters in these games, both male and female, are anime inspired. But it's almost too much so in regards to some of these female characters. Maybe it's because I'm just not that into anime, I don't know, but it just seems a bit over the top to see characters dressed like this, running around with a bunch of samurai in the heat of battle. I mean, I know what the developers are trying to do, in tying these characters to what they are historically known for. For example, Akechi Mitsuhide's daughter. In real life, she would convert to Christianity and take the name Gracia after being baptized. And I know they want to give her outfit more of a European vibe because of that, but seriously, what were they going for? French maid? It's just ridiculous. Maybe not for you, but at least for me. Anyway, moving on, and getting back to what I like about these games. They each tell a unique story. Although each game tells the tale of the Sengoku Jidai, each game does it differently. For example, Samurai Warriors 4 chooses to focus on different regions of the country, then tying all the stories together in the final campaign that leads to the Battle of Sekigahara and the final siege of Osaka. It's really great because we get to learn all about the characters' motivations and backgrounds before we dive into the real push towards unification. This is vastly different than what we got in Samurai Warriors 2, which instead gave us highly personalized stories of specific samurai. While in Samurai Warriors 4, we were able to choose to play as any number of characters throughout the campaigns, Samurai Warriors 2 focuses solely on the character you choose and tells their story throughout the period. And what gets extremely interesting is that a lot of these stories are pure fantasy. What I mean by that is that they take the character in a completely different direction than what actually happened. For example, play as Ishida Mitsunari and win the Battle of Sekigahara. Play as Takeda Shingen and unify Japan. Play as Masamune Date and usurp power from Tokugawa Ieyasu. Hell, play as Sasaki Kojiro and defeat Miyamoto Musashi on Ganryo Island. It's extremely fun to see where your journey can take you if you fight hard enough and win the battles that historically ended differently. Now, while the main titles do come with other modes besides the main story, they aren't usually anything as interesting. They can still be pretty fun, yet most times they involve playing as a character and competing odd mini-missions. However, if I'm going to play another mode, it might as well be the standalone Empires games. For those of you who don't know, the Empires games take the base game for whatever Dynasty or Samurai Warriors game is currently out and sets up a map of the country and allows you to choose any clan you want or create your own clan, then go out and conquer the land. You manage your clan through in-depth systems of diplomacy, officer relations, employment, troop strength, tactics, formations, weapon and mount upgrades, and so much more. These games are a great addition, along with the custom characters you can create and have participate in your campaigns. I would even go so far to say that I play the Samurai Warriors Empires games more than the base Samurai Warriors games, with Samurai Warriors 2 Empires being a real standout in the series. Don't get me wrong, Samurai Warriors 4 Empires can be a great time too, especially with how in-depth the custom character creator has become. But man, Samurai Warriors 2 Empires is still the best, as I feel the game was just a bit more soundly put together than Samurai Warriors 4 Empires, mostly in regards to the character progression, base capturing, and custom battles. Moving on though, before I wrap things up, I do want to mention an additional Samurai Warriors game, that being Samurai Warriors Spirit of Sanada. Once again, as of 2019, this is the most recent Samurai Warriors game to be released, and honestly, it's different than all the rest, as it's an RPG approach to the Warriors formula that follows the story of the Sanada clan, going all the way from the 4th Battle of Kawanakajima in 1561 to the Summer Siege of Osaka Castle in 1615. This game packs way more heart and tension into its story than any other Samurai Warriors game, and I might just make a video about it all on its own at some point. But anyways, those are my thoughts on the Samurai Warriors series. They can be seriously fun games if the playstyle is something you think you might be into. And while they are historical fiction, they do follow the major beats of the Sengoku period while also giving us an interesting look at key historical figures. Once again, I'm not going to rate this series as a whole, because I know these games are not for everyone, and you can't really look at these games from a solid historical standpoint. I just wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on the series. So with that said, if you still want a more detailed look into the Warrior franchise, I highly recommend you check out Chris Gilder's video, which I'm still going to link in the description. And of course, let me know what your thoughts are. Have you played the Samurai Warriors games? If so, what do you think of them? But as always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell if you enjoyed this video and found it to be most entertaining.